It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the LIU Sharks head cheerleading coach, Coach Tony Betts. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college cheerleading?
Well, I first started my degree at Ole Miss in education because I always knew that I wanted to be a coach of some sort. So I began my career as a teacher. And while I was teaching, I was coaching at a high school. And then throughout the years, I just gained more and more experience. And eventually the college position opened up, and it was something that I was prepared for and excited to take.
What was that like, getting to go to Ole Miss and getting to be on the cheerleading team for Ole Miss?
Ole Miss was an incredible experience, and especially coming from programs around here in New York, the scale of football is not as big as it is down there. So it was a big change for me. And another role that I got to take while I was down there was we had sororities, and we did like a cheerleading competition amongst the sororities as well. So I got to take lead on that too, which was really cool. And that was another thing that helped me develop into the coaching role that I'm in right now.
What was that experience like, getting to put on that Ole Miss cheerleading jersey?
It was an incredible experience, and one that I hope that I can kind of share here at LIU as well.
Of course, while at Ole Miss and being in the SEC, what was that like, always getting good competitions like Georgia, Florida, Alabama?
So the competitions that you see with the SEC schools are very tight and very competitive. And we're actually very fortunate here at LIU to be in the D1 all-girl program, where you see some of the toughest competition as well.
Of course, how was that like, getting to compete on game days? And what was that like for the football versus, let's say, competing as a basketball game?
It's just like the environment surrounding the event itself, like the pregame hype and the performances that you get to do at football games are really just a unique experience.
Of course, coming out of college of Ole Miss, what was it like getting into college coaching, and what was it like going to Stony Brook?
Stony Brook was an awesome experience. I went there for my master's degree, and I was teaching full time. And after teaching, I would go straight to campus, and I would be there for about 3 hours a night, 5 days a week. And because I was on campus for so long, I just decided to join the cheerleading team in my master's program. So I came into Stony Brook again as like a leader on the team because of my age and my experience up to that point. So it was awesome being able to step into a program and help it grow.
What were some of the things that you accomplished while at Stony Brook?
While I was there, we competed virtually during the COVID season, and our team finished third at UCA Virtual Nationals.
Of course, how was that like, going to the UCA Nationals and getting to compete?
It was a dream come true. I always wanted to do it. So being able to do it at a collegiate level was awesome.
While at the UCA Nationals, what was that feeling like, getting to live out your dream of making it to the biggest cheerleading stage in collegiate athletics?
As a coach or as an athlete? Because I could definitely speak to both of them in two different ways.
First, as an athlete.
As an athlete, it's such a challenge at the collegiate level because you only get one competition, and that's the national championship down in Florida. So you go your whole season preparing for one chance on the mat. So while I was competing as an athlete, our one chance, we had a lot of deductions, and so we didn't get to advance into finals, which was a heartbreak, but you learned so much in that process as well.
Of course, what was that moment like going to Florida as an athlete competing nationally in Walt Disney World?
It is an experience like no other to be able to board a flight with like 20, 25 of your teammates, to be able to, reward yourself for your hard work all season long and finally have your team be in the spotlight. When as cheerleaders, we're always on the sidelines of other people's sports and other people's events. So for us to have that one moment where it's focused on us is unreal.
After your time at Stony Brook, what was it like getting to come to LIU to become the next head coach?
It was a surreal moment getting the phone call saying that I was being offered the position here. In my free time moving in from in my free time while cheering for Stony Brook, I would leave their campus to come here to help assist the head coach at the time, and this was back in like 2019, 2020. So many of the girls that are still on the team are girls that I worked with back 3 years ago. So to be able to take over this program and this team that still had those members on it was incredibly rewarding.
What was that feeling like, obviously coming in as a quote volunteer assistant to work your way up to become the next head coach?
I was assisting under their previous coach, who was an Ole Miss cheerleader and just had an incredible resume of experience. And that opportunity to come here as a volunteer assistant coach and learn from her is something that is still embedded in my coaching technique today.
What was that experience like, getting to coach alongside your teammate from Ole Miss?
So her and I actually met when she came to Long Island University. She came to my high school practice at the time. And so her and I were not teammates, but we had that common background from Ole Miss, and we were able to bond and, kind of put our energy towards creating a team that would, flourish for years to come.
Of course, throughout your coaching experience, what was it like getting to coach alongside your sister?
Oh, that is the best experience. So I have two sisters, one older, one younger, and we have been in this since 2001. So we've been cheering this whole time, and now it's to the point where each of us have our own teams and we collaborate together and we find ways to help each other grow. And this year down in nationals at UCA Nationals, my team came home with a national championship in game day, and their team came home with a world championship in traditional. So it was amazing to watch all the work we put in finally pay off this year.
What was that feeling like, obviously coming home with the national trophy and then obviously your sister coming home with the world trophy?
It was amazing to see the success that my athletes got to experience, and just watching them grow throughout the season in so many different ways. To have them come home with that medal around their neck was unreal. And then on the flip side of it, getting to share that moment with my family as well was really cool.
How does a typical game day look like as a cheerleader for LIU?
Our game day is very fun here. I tried to sprinkle in a little bit of my personality into their game day, and it was a lot of work adjusting them from, calling out regular cheers on the sideline to actually enjoying their time at football games. So you did see a shift this year in the energy on the sideline. So what they do is they come in about 2 hours before the game starts. We have practice, and then we give them an hour before kickoff to kind of interact with their fans and families. And then we do a tunnel to welcome the football team out onto the field. We cheer the whole sideline. And then something that I've implemented this year as a coach that proved successful for our competitive season is for 30 minutes after the game ends, my cheerleaders stay on the field and we get practice in. They hated it at first, but every time that we did it, they were hitting stunts and pyramids that aren't necessarily as successful in practice. And I think it was because they were in the uniform, they were on the field, they had people around them and watching them. And I think it was a new level of motivation for them to kind of push themselves out of their like physical limits and try new things.
Of course, as you talked about that, what was that like, obviously getting them motivated to obviously do those stunts and those practices after the games, after cheering for, let's say, 4 hours long?
It was so hard. It was so hard, but I did implement it early on in the season. So I let them all know before the season started, this is how it's going to go. After the football game is done, we're staying on the field to do 30-minute practice. And every week I got like the resistance from them. They didn't want to stay. Some of them had parties they had to go to. Some of them had to go to work. And my argument all the time was, so do I. Like, I have places to go to. There was one day where my best friend got engaged and my teammates were like, Coach, we have this thing after, we can't stay for practice. And I was like, my best friend just got engaged. We're still staying. So I did get a lot of grief on it, but you know, I think hindsight's 20/20 for them. And down at nationals, I had a group of athletes say, you know, Coach, you were right. Everything you did this season proved to be right. And it's so nice for them to, you know, kind of see that, see the method to the madness at the end of it all.
Of course, how is cheering for the basketball team and being indoors different than obviously cheering for the football team?
So we just started going to basketball games for this season because we were in hard preparation for nationals. So their first basketball game was last weekend, and it is a very different experience because at LIU, we have two campuses, one at Post and one in Brooklyn. So our Post cheerleading team buses to the Brooklyn campus. So it is a whole new experience for them. And it's very different than what we're able to do at football because we don't get that hour in between and before the game starts, an hour after, that's used for transportation. So it is very fun for them because it's something new and exciting, and they get to, again, get on a bus all together and travel as a team.
Of course, with you having two campuses, one in Brooklyn and one in Stony, how has that been like, obviously trying to have the cheerleaders all be in the same facility at the same time?
Our cheerleading team here at Post is made up of students who go to Post. So it's an interesting dynamic because the sports are location specific. So if you play softball, you're at Brooklyn. If you play baseball, you're at Post. If you play football, you're at Post. If you play basketball, you're at Brooklyn. And the students take their classes there and they dorm there. And so cheer and dance are on the Post campus. So our practices aren't really interfered that much. It's just when we need to go to Brooklyn, we all move to Brooklyn.
Of course, what did the competition look like preparing for nationals, and what was that feeling like making nationals as a coach?
It was a different experience. I was freaking out on the sidelines of their mat, and it got to the point where I had a volunteer assistant coach, and it was like a week before nationals, and my stress levels were just so high because we were in such a good standing going into it, that my assistant coach told me to take the back seat. She was like, you're doing too much. You're scaring them. You're going to take the back seat. I'll run. She was like, you go sit down. I'll run the practice. So for the last week leading up to it, my nerves were so high that I had to like go sit on the bench and kind of let them and trust the process that I had prepared them this far and that they could take it the rest of the way. Being a coach was different.
As a head coach, going to nationals and going to the ESPN Worldwide Sports, what was that feeling like versus obviously going as a cheerleader?
As a cheerleader?
What was it like going as a coach versus your time as a cheerleader?
So going into it as a cheerleader, you have so many, you're more focused and you're more like, you know, you have one job to do and that job lasts 2 minutes and 30 seconds. As a coach, I had so much time to think about everything that could go right and everything that could go wrong. And just like the nerves are crazy, but my team was in such a good mindset going into that competition that they had such positive vibes that just carried me throughout. And it was awesome watching them in the hallways interact with other teams. And, when we stepped out to go take the mat, they had made so many friends at other programs that LIU was walking through the hallway and every team waiting in line was chanting LIU. Like, it was so incredible. And, it was something I said to them before we started the weekend. I said, I want you guys to enjoy this experience and work hard towards a goal, but I want you to be the team that everyone wants to interact with. And they were able to do that. And it was incredible.
As a head coach, in those last few minutes, right before they announced that you were become a national champ, what was those feelings like right
I
before
couldn't stop crying. So we were at a point where we knew if we hit our routine, meaning performed it flawlessly, we would win. We knew that going into it. And so in the semifinals, they hit and we were going into finals in first place. Going into finals in first place is a very hard spot to be in, because that means, your comments are positive. You have very little deductions. We had 0 deductions, where anyone underneath you, they have room to improve and they have time to improve it. So it was nerve-wracking sitting there for 5 hours knowing I was in first place and having to do it again. So when we took the mat for finals and they hit, I just started crying until they announced the awards, and then they announced it, and it was just a dream come true. It was amazing.
Who were some of the teams during those competitions that you saw?
We were in the finals. We were up against the University of South Dakota and St. John's University. And it was a full circle moment. In the other division that was going side by side with us was Ole Miss. And there was an article posted that compared Ole Miss and Long Island University as being the front runners for our particular division. And the article came over my phone and I was in a dream. It was just so cool to see.
What was that feeling like, obviously, as the alma mater of Ole Miss, seeing them compete in the tournament and try to go for the national championship alongside you?
It was, like I said, a full circle moment, because the coach over at Ole Miss, it was the head coach here when I was her assistant. So the two of us who worked together back in 2019 season were on that national stage together and both announced as national champions. And it's so cool to see how our original brainstorm branched off, and now the two of us are running successful teams.
As a head coach, what was that feeling like, getting to hoist up the national championship trophy, knowing that all of your hard work paid off?
It was amazing. And I grabbed it and I ran straight to my sisters and my mom, and we just, had a little family moment of celebration. I took it away. Like my kids, the athletes, they had a moment with the trophy, and I grabbed that and I went running with it. So that was a really cool experience, and having them down there to support us too was great.
Can you talk about, of course, the cultures that you started to build for LIU?
The culture?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great question, because I really do believe that I'm trying to build a positive culture here. And one of the biggest issues we had in the beginning of the season was our athletes expressing concern on why they're still a part of the team, or, just being concerned, like why they're like falling out of love with the sport. They don't remember why they did it. So I tried to instill my passion into them and into this program. And it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of crazy energy from me trying to get them to, step out of their comfort zone and just have fun with it, but still be athletically and physically successful while doing it. And I think that the results of this season and them being able to watch back on a routine that was unique, fun, different, and good, I think it really kind of brought them back into why they wanted to do this in the first place.
What are some of your coaching accomplishments as a head coach, obviously besides winning the national championship?
That's a great question. I think one of my proudest moments would be coaching athletes that I coached in high school and watching them grow from when I had them when they were 12 years old to now that they're graduating and 21 years old. And they've been working so hard and long at this sport, and being able to, graduate them with a national championship, but also watching them grow into coaches so that they can learn how to share the experience as well.
As a coach, what was that feeling like, getting to put on that national championship ring for LIU versus the time when you got to put it on at Ole Miss as a cheerleader?
So we don't have our rings just yet, but we are brainstorming. We have the design made out. We actually were talking today about being able to finalize the order and send them. So we are very excited to get to put those rings on. And although we didn't have them down there, just the idea that one day it will be coming soon is great. And we're so excited for that moment.
What is that feeling going to feel like for you personally, getting to put on both rings from Ole Miss and now at LIU?
So I never got a ring with Ole Miss, but we will have a ring with LIU, and then I'm getting a ring with my sister's school who won the world championship down there as well. So being able to have 2 rings from the same family, and 2 programs that, acted as sister schools throughout the season and would help each other out at clinics and camps and practices. It's a really cool feeling to come home with 2.
What does the recruitment process look like for those cheerleaders that are looking to get into cheerleading?
So for our recruitment process here at LIU, what they'll do is they submit a tryout video to us where we could kind of look into it. They'll send over their transcripts. We'll see if there's any scholarship money that we could send their way to kind of encourage them to come here. And then after that, we have clinics where high school students can come in and work with our team, and we can kind of see their skills, and then we develop interest in that area. And then we will have our official tryouts in April.
Of course, as a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes when doing the tryouts?
We look for first position. A lot of people don't know that there are actually positions in cheerleading. So we have main bases, side bases, back spots, and top girls. So everyone has their own role to play. And this season was a little bit hard because we didn't take that into consideration at first. So we had not enough in one position and too much in the other. And it was very hard for them to switch and build in that respect. So moving forward, we're going to be making sure that we have a perfect ratio of positions. And then we also look at individual athlete skills in terms of tumbling. So the certain back handspring requirement, tuck requirement, to see if they can tumble and get us scores how we need them.
Of course, after the tryouts for those prospective student athletes, what is that process like, getting them on campus and seeing your cheerleading facility and obviously the football and basketball court that they will be cheering on?
So right after tryouts, we have our summer practices where they all come to campus, and it is very exciting for the freshmen, especially because it's so brand new to them. And we immediately hit the ground running with physical endurance tests, basics for cheerleading, and then we go into our pre-camp week, which leads into our camp week, which is our camp is 8 hours a day for 4 days straight. So it's a lot.
Of course, as a head coach, what is that feeling like, getting to see them get to put on that LIU blue and gold jersey?
Sorry, I'm choking. It was awesome this year because I'm not crying, I'm just choking on, it's warm in here. We got brand new uniforms this year. So they were super excited to be able to put on their old uniforms and then their new ones. And then when we went down there to compete, they won in their old uniforms, which was really cool. Sorry.
Of course, what was that feeling like, obviously seeing them as a head coach get to put on that uniform and represent LIU like you represent Ole Miss during your time?
It was just really cool to see that Long Island University has like grown into a D1 program that brings in students from all over who are eager to continue their cheerleading career and grow as athletes.
What are some of your future plans as head coach moving forward, building the program?
Defending the title. Every day I'm working side by side with our dance coach, who is my spirit coordinator over here. And we're just constantly spinning ideas back and forth on how we can improve and how we can maintain our athletes here and, you know, build on recruitment numbers. And we have so many good ideas in the works, and we're so excited to make those actually happen.
As you get prepared for the off season of competitions, what are some of the things that you're doing now to prepare you to get back to that national championship next year?
We are starting lifts next week for our athletes, and they're going to be more regulated, and we're going to make sure that they're going and we're taking their attendance, because one thing we noticed, actually our trainer noticed when we were down in nationals, our trainer said, I don't know, they're doing such a good job, and I don't know how they're doing these skills when they're all the same size. And it made so much sense. Like when you look at our girls, they're lifting girls that are their size. So we're implementing lifts this year, this off season, so that we could kind of get their muscles working and teach them how to lift properly so that they can be stronger for next season.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to get into collegiate cheerleading?
I love that question. You have to find a school that fits what you want to do first. And you have to protect yourself from burnout as well. Because I think a lot of high school students rush into the process of going to college to cheer, and then they pick the wrong school, and then they realize the program is too demanding. So then they end up burning out, and now they're at a school that doesn't benefit them. So it's find the school first, find the team second, and remember your why.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of cheerleading for a college team?
For the freshmen, to speak to the freshmen I had on this team this year, is just being confident in everything that you do. I think that is a huge step for them to take, because they go from high school to a brand new environment, and a lot of times it is scary. So it's just, especially when you walk into the gym, like knowing what you're capable of doing and staying confident in that.
What advice would you give those seniors that are looking to go play cheer professionally, whether it's the NFL, NBA, or even the NHL?
So I could speak to UCA, because what I would say in my experience becoming a UCA staff member in that tryout process was learning how to work well with everybody. And when you try out for a team like that, whether it's an NFL, XFL, UCA, whatever, you have to go into the gym or the dance studio and interact with people and know how to communicate and know how to network. And it's such a great life skill that can be applied from cheerleading and college cheer and high school cheer. It's growing in the sport so that you could grow in your personal life as well.
What advice would you give those head coaches that are looking to start their own cheerleading program for a college?
That's a great question. I think the best advice I can give is, especially when you're starting a program, is utilizing all the resources that you have on the team. So something I do is I start up committees within my team, and I give everybody a role. It's not so much like captains, because it's a little bit more inclusive. So dividing your team up into skills that they all have. So if they're really good at social media, you have a social media committee. If they're good at fundraising, a fundraising committee, and you kind of, excuse me, you kind of let the team run itself.
Where can our listeners find you at on social media along with the LIU program app?
I'm so sorry. Our social media page, let's see, is LIU_cheerleading.
Where can our listeners find you at on social media?
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Where can our listeners find you at on social media too?
Oh, me personally?
Mhm.
TJ Betts on Instagram.
Thank you again, Tanya Betts, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the LIU cheerleading program as the head cheerleading coach.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Tanya Betts, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.